Hurt was looking crazy.
Do I need my hat? See, you look
Bald-
cool in a hat.
Bald is beautiful, man.
I
You're
don't
good.
look cool. I don't mind about that, but I want to look
Yeah,
cool.
you're good.
He looks cool.
I'm going to kick your intro off.
Good evening. Welcome to LoveLogical, DNA Not Required. This is Michelle L. Anderson, coming to you live from Podcast Detroit, Royal Oak Studios. We are looking forward to intriguing and entertaining you every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Let me start today's show by saying thank you for joining our family, which is biological by nature, LoveLogical by choice, DNA Not Required.
Hello, hello, hello. How's everybody doing today? I'm DeLon Kennedy, and this is LoveLogical, the podcast. Today we have a very special guest. We're going to be talking with Michael today. He's the owner of Harson's Island Distillery. And let me tell you guys, this is some good stuff. Okay? I'm very much enjoying all of it. It is absolutely amazing. Go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit.
Sure. Hi, my name's Michael Michaud, and I started the Harson's Island Distillery out on Harson's Island a few years back.
Okay.
And we're having a great time out there.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I
Yeah,
met
I
you,
do. That is
right?
how I met you, you know.
We hang out with folks that come visit.
Mhm.
We talk about spirits. We talk about just about everything.
So like ghosts?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, ghosts. Because there's a lot of ghosts of the past on Harson's Island.
Oh, that's cool.
That's part of the reason why we're there, is because
The mystery.
yeah, there was a lot of spirits came through that island.
Yeah.
Not
This is
only
true.
did they pass through, but they were also distilled there.
Yes.
In the history of Harson's Island.
The original owner of Harson's Island wasn't he a distiller?
Yeah, they all were.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, back then you had to make your own.
yeah.
If
Because
you're on an island, you're not going to be able to run up to the grocery store and pick up some spirits.
Yeah.
So they were very self-sufficient at that time,
yeah,
like most other places, right? But still a little bit more because you're on an island.
yeah. I've learned some cool things about Harson's Island. It surprised me a little bit, like learning that Al Capone used to run booze through there back
That's
in
right.
the day.
He had a cottage there, and
Yeah.
he met there with the Purple Gang from Detroit.
Yeah,
To make their deals, because as you know, sitting at our distillery, if you look out that window,
Mhm.
there's Canada.
yeah, right
And they
across
didn't
the
have
border.
an issue with making spirits when we
Spirits.
did, right?
Yeah.
So it was right there.
Yeah, that's really cool. I could imagine like let's say 70 years ago now, 80 years ago,
That's right.
just seeing these gangsters driving through in their fancy cars, just so they can get to the boathouse and make sure it all gets across,
It must have been.
Yeah.
It must have been a lot of fun.
Riding on a wooden barge, to cross back then.
Well, yeah, that's right. Not only a wooden barge, but the interesting parallel between NASCAR and Harson's Island in Michigan. NASCAR was born out of the guys outrunning the cops. They
Oh.
were, right? They were up in the Appalachian Mountains,
Yeah.
running through those mountains with liquor in the back.
They were racers.
They were racers. So they learned how to drive cars by escaping the police.
So that's how NASCAR got started.
That's how NASCAR started. The first stars of NASCAR were bootleggers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's an interesting fact of the day.
So they had their fast cars. Well, we had our fast boats.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can outrun the police in the boats
That's
to get
right.
the spirits over
And
from
we had-
Canada to Michigan.
That's correct. And we had Chris Craft. So we had
What's a
these-
Chris Craft?
That's one of the most beautiful boats ever made. It's made here in
Okay.
Michigan, in Algonac.
Oh, okay.
And you certainly could drop a big engine on that boat.
And a Chris Craft.
Yeah.
Hey, make sure you Google that, guys. Chris
Yeah,
Craft.
Chris Craft. That's right.
Okay.
So here's the way I think about it too. It's like, all right, let's say you and I are buddies. We're 20 years old
Mhm.
back in Prohibition. We don't have any skills,
Yeah.
so we're either gonna, do manual labor or something to make ends meet,
Yeah.
or we get us a fast boat
And get there.
go into our own a business of our own that paid a lot more money.
Yeah, I heard that.
Right?
I heard that. Yeah, yeah. Because prohibition,
Yeah,
that was a hard time for everybody.
That's right, but it lasted a long time. So
Yeah, it did.
It was possible to have an industry of running liquor
Yeah,
from
yeah,
Canada. And of course, the statistic that 80% of all of the liquor in the United States in Prohibition came through Detroit and the St. Clair Flats.
Oh wow! Oh
Yeah.
wow! So Detroit was like one of the main hubs to just get it going and get it processed.
Exactly. So, like I said, we got in a time machine. You and I, we went back to the beginning of Prohibition.
Yeah,
We could have
1920s.
we could have run our bootlegging business for a whole decade
Yeah, yeah.
and made some real money.
That's real money too.
Real money, yeah.
Because that's straight for all the alcohol, especially getting that Canadian whiskey, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
that was the cottage industry on Harson's Island.
Yeah. So the original bootleggers.
Yeah, that's right.
That's really cool. That's really cool. I
You
know.
saw the pictures up there, right?
Yeah,
that
yeah.
fast boat, the
Yeah.
boat up there, and
I
was
loved seeing like the different pictures of the history of Harson's Island, even like going into you guys' shop and seeing the motorized bicycle that you had right there in the front. That was a part of history that you can never replace,
That's right.
Yeah, I love that. That's like right up my alley,
Exactly. So that's kind of the history of Harson's Island that deals with spirits that I
Yeah.
thought was just so fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
And I thought, well, with all those hundreds of thousands of bottles that pass through Harson's Island, why hasn't somebody opened up a legal distillery with that history?
Yeah.
Because I thought, people are going to be very interested in that, the same as me.
Yeah.
I love doing the cooking. That's
Okay.
a whole other story. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
But what's also a turn on is the rich history of people doing that.
Yeah.
Making their own stuff.
Especially with it being an original port, like that's
Yeah.
even the founder of Harson's Island, he was actually a distiller himself. So when he purchased it from the Indians, he made alcohol there, and like everything we're talking about tonight, we're going to be talking about a lot of date night activities,
Mm-hmm.
Let's say instead of a date night, you wanted a day date, you wanted to make a trip out of it. This is a place that's very close to Detroit.
Exactly.
Not only can you stop and, see all the beautiful sights, from the lighthouse when you're driving in to coming across on the ferry,
That's fun in itself.
It is. That was the first time my
You
daughter
roll-
has ever been on a boat before.
Right. Roll down the windows and feel that breeze coming
Yeah.
through your vehicle. And,
Yeah.
And you're like, you're also looking around like, I'm on
I was nervous
on a
myself.
ferry. Yeah,
I was nervous because I
exactly.
didn't realize that we started moving yet. So once it started going, I was like, "Whoa, okay, hold on."
Well, yeah.
And it was my daughter that was actually saying, "Hey, we're going. Look, the water."
And even driving on that ferry, it's close quarters.
Yeah,
So
most definitely.
you get kind of a little bit of a
The butterflies.
butterfly going. You got to go up that ramp.
You want me to go more? I'm pulling closer to the
Exactly.
car. Yeah, you're
They're
right.
going-
Bumper to
they're
bumper.
Going, bring it in.
Yeah, bumper to bumper.
And then it starts. And the one funny thing about it is that you're sitting in your car,
Mhm.
in this it's going across, and the angle's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And you start actually turning your wheel. You're like, wait a minute, that's not going to work.
Yeah, you're
You
trying
think-
to guide it.
You're
trying
trying to guide it because you think it should be going over a little bit to the left.
I think that's why it got me a little bit because I'm like, hold on, we should be going. I thought we were
Yeah.
just going straight across.
I-
Yeah, I got
Exactly. I find myself doing the same thing, like turning my steering wheel.
you. Yeah.
That's not going to work.
So you guys actually live in Detroit and you commute to Harson's Island.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
right.
like why did you choose, like, other than the history, what made you choose that location?
Well, I think part of it was because that when you've experienced this, when you go across on that ferry and you
Mhm.
get off on the other side, it's like you're a long ways away from everything.
Yeah.
You're not,
Yeah.
but it seems like it.
Because it's cut off. It's literally like, that was the one thing that I noticed, that it was kind of cut off from the rest of the world, it seemed like.
That's right.
And it was driving through all the nature that was there. Like, I'm a tree fan, I love nature. and just driving through some of the tunnels in the trees and just going around the island and seeing some of the different things. Next time I come, I really want to see the Stewart Farm. I want to check that out. I want to check out some of the more northern parts of the island, maybe, and then go southern. I want to just check out the whole island in itself because it's.
Well, there's a lot of natural beauty, you're right?
Yeah.
And that's what's interesting about it. It is a perfect day trip.
It is.
Because you can get a good feel for the island in that. No matter where you are around Metro Detroit, you're not more than an hour or so drive from Harson's Island.
Yeah.
At the most.
So if you were going to let's say you were going to take your wife on a trip, let's say on a Harson's Island day date, what would you do?
Well, again, I'd after you come across on the ferry, I'd take in some of the natural beauty, driving around the island. There's lots of wildlife. If you're interested in birds, there's tons of different kinds of birds.
Oh yeah.
There's tons of different kind of there's marshland, there's forest.
Oh yeah.
If you like fishing, I can tell you a few places where you can catch some really beautiful fish, big
Okay.
fish. So that's exciting.
Yeah,
And
that
it's
is
right off the
exciting.
road. When you pull off,
You just pull over and you just
throw it in there, and you're probably going to hit something.
catching some largemouth bass or something like that.
Yeah, some big ones.
Crappie.
Or you end up with, like I do sometimes, with little bluegills this big. But,
Yeah. Oh, that's all I ever catch.
Good enough.
Yeah.
Good enough. So if you like fishing, there's lots of places to fish there. In the summer, they have the kayak rentals. You can,
Now that's something that I would really look forward to is the kayak rentals,
yeah.
because just being on the island itself, it's like has a whole different vibe to it than being in the city or being somewhere even in the suburbs of Detroit. No traffic. You're on this island and it's just like sunshine and rainbow, especially if you go on a good day. Like, and that breeze
That's right.
does hit you, and I'm telling you, you just got to let your hair go.
Yeah. You can do a lot of kayaking on that island. They've done a lot of work with a thoroughway for kayaking called Crispin's Drain.
Okay.
They had a project where they dredged it.
Oh, okay.
So you can basically kayak through the center of the island.
So there's canals and things like that. Oh,
Exactly.
okay.
They're only
Yeah,
accessible with
yeah.
a kayak.
That's really cool. You guys hear that? So you can take a day
Mm-hmm.
trip, and let's say you want to do a little date. Take your girlfriend and go kayaking. Kayaking is always a great date.
Yes.
No
And
matter
pack
what.
Don't forget to pack that perfect lunch.
Yeah, you have to pack the great picnic lunch.
Yes.
Like,
And even if you don't want to, there's several nice restaurants on the island
there are.
that you can go to, and they have their own unique histories as well. Schoolhouse Grill. is one
Schoolhouse.
that I'd like to mention.
Yeah, they
uh,
closed soon.
yeah.
The school just recently closed, rather.
That's right. It was the school for the island.
Yeah, elementary school.
That's right. And now it's been converted into a restaurant, and they do a great job. My son worked there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he used to. He would drive his boat from our place right to work.
He would drive his. Did you guys hear that? He would drive his boat
Yes.
to work. Like that. That's the life right there. It
Yeah.
sounds like you're more in like Florida. Like somewhere in South Carolina, maybe.
Well,
maybe
it's
Texas.
the life that I wanted.
Yeah,
that I'm trying to
yeah.
get at some
The
point,
dream
That's
life, right?
So he rides on his boat. It's a vintage. It's a '56 Crestliner. So it's a
Okay.
vintage boat. Looks beautiful,
Yeah.
but it's functional as well. So he fishes on his way to work, and then the chefs cook up his fish.
What?
Yeah.
So you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
when he
cool.
gets off work, they cook his fish up for him. So he gets back on the boat with his container of fish and chips and goes back to the
What?
cottage, hangs out, watches movies, eats fresh fish and chips.
That's like that is the life.
That's right. And then
That's the
during the
life.
day, he worked at the distillery.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really
And
cool.
he rode that vintage bike
Yeah, that bicycle was
back and forth.
that was a really cool bike. Like just
Mhm.
just to even have like because it's the history of the island, and then to go into you guys a shop and to see there's more history right there. Like to me that's what sets the how can I say it? That's what sets the mood. Like it brings you back to a time where things were a lot simpler. So you're not like necessarily on your phone the whole time doing this. It's a good place where you can sit down and actually have a good conversation with somebody. We actually, so when we went to Harson's Island, it was me, my mother, and my daughter, and I just want to take my mom on a little day trip. Maybe go somewhere to, somewhere a little different. And she told me about Harson's Island from when she was a kid. So I was, oh, okay, let's go. We end up going up there, and it was a very fun drive, but you guys were the highlight of our trip.
I appreciate that.
You were the highlight, because I expected, I didn't expect much. I said, oh, okay. And then I looked in and I'm like, man, this place is really nice. It was super clean. And then you guys were so friendly. Wanted to stay for, let's say, 20 minutes. 2 hours went by.
Yeah, we had a good time. We had a really good time.
It's like, people were coming in and out. We talked to the people that were coming in, and it's like everyone was friendly. It was just a great atmosphere, and I felt super comfortable. So that's why I say that, a day date would be a great place. Like your place would be a great place to come for a day date. Come and sample the different alcohols that we have. We're going to talk about these in a minute. I'll talk about the different types of alcohol that he makes, from the spiced rum, the straight bourbon whiskey, the vodka, the gin. He actually has a very good gin that, for all the gin drinkers out there, I'd say gin used to be one of my favorite drinks. So I'd say this is a definite must try. But it was just a great experience, because I never expected it at all. Like it literally surprised me. I thought we were just going to go across and it was going to be this small town that looked like an old Western from Colorado,
Right.
and it was completely different from what I expected. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's very kind of you. And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Because again, this is my hobby.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, I enjoy people coming in and being interested in the process and telling stories. Because I love to hear stories as much as anybody else.
Yeah, me too.
And a lot of the island people have great stories because they chose to live on an island.
For life.
Yeah, in Michigan. So, go there in February. It's a winter wonderland. It's something very, very unique.
Mm-hmm. Do they actually plow the roads?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
People live there year-round.
Okay.
And now that's a special kind of person.
Yeah.
So what's
Most
cool about
definitely.
that is that they live their whole life kind of on the edge a little bit.
Okay.
So they've got great stories.
Mm-hmm.
They ended up on an island in Michigan.
What's the best story that you can remember that somebody's told you?
Well, mostly the best stories I've heard are the grandparents that were actually in the business.
Okay.
During Prohibition.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
we have some folks that come in there that are, they're 80 plus years old. So they remember their grandparents
Mhm.
actively working in that industry on the island. And
Wow.
I've heard about, I remember my grandfather driving across the ice because that channel before modern times when they keep it open for the shipping,
Mm-hmm.
well, it froze solid.
Wow, that's cool. I didn't know that.
So yeah, you got a road directly to Canada. You don't have to. You park the boat, you get the Model T out. So I've heard lots of great stories about their grandparents
Yeah.
and their grandfathers and driving across that
putting
channel,
across the ice on their Model T.
Yep,
That's
looking
really
around,
cool. That's really
meeting
cool.
people on the other side and packing up those cases of liquor.
Across the ice, though,
Yeah.
that's man. Talk about ice.
Yeah.
That's a dangerous job. But I guess
It is a dangerous job.
I'd say back then it got a lot colder than it does today, though.
Yeah, it froze solid.
Yeah. I actually heard. So I was reading a little bit about the history of the island and things like that, and I watched a little short documentary on the ferry drivers and how his dad or his grandfather bought it, and he had a wooden barge at first, then he switched it all around, built the first metal barge, and he said they actually have to break through the ice, like they let it freeze over solid, then they have to break through the ice one good time, and then they should be good for the rest of the year.
Sometimes it's closed.
Sometimes closed?
Yeah.
Oh,
If they
man.
get those big ice flows
Mhm.
coming through there, those are. Think about how much they must weigh.
Oh yeah.
They're going to push around that ferry.
Yeah. End
And,
up cutting a
so-
hole like the Titanic.
Yeah, exactly. So I know that my son and his buddies would love to go there in the winter because they'd build like a sled run off of our seawall down into the cut where we live, because we live on an island that I have no road to my cottage. You have to take a boat there.
Oh man, that's cool.
So when that freezes over in the winter, it's up higher. They build up. They get pallets and build this wooden ramp, and they ice it all down, and they slide down onto the cut.
Wow, that's really
And
cool.
they also like ice skate, and then they got to sleep outside in the igloo that they made. They're
So you guys actually made igloos?
not me. I stay in the house. I'm not gonna. No.
Come on,
These are the-
Dad.
No, not that's no. I
Oh.
did it, but it was mostly the kids. That did
That was my favorite thing to do growing up. We
Yeah.
would, because I grew up in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and we would take the like, they always have the snow piles everywhere in Michigan, but they would always put them at the end of the driveway in our apartment complex. So what we would do is we would just start freezing it over. We would dig into it a little bit and throw cups of ice water on it. And we were back and forth, Mom yelling at you, "Stop going in the house!" In and out, in and out. And we built igloos. Like we iced the whole inside of them, and just that was where we hung out. We'd hang out with the boys. Little fort. Try to chop a window in it, end up collapsing every time though.
That's what they did too. And of course they did all the tricks, that like to get out of school, right? But they do it to hope that the ferry would be shut down. So they'd be trapped on the island.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have to go back.
That's really cool.
So Sunday, Saturday night, they're wearing their, underwear inside out, and all these different
ice cubes in the toilet.
ice cubes they did all this stuff. And it wasn't to get a snow day from school. It was to get the ferry to stop. So that they got
That's
trapped
cool.
on the island. And a couple of times it did happen. They got
Just
lucky.
so you get to have that experience on the island.
Exactly.
Like that's one thing that I can say that I would totally get into. I would love to live in a place that was isolated like that, to where it's, you have just a great foundation. But let's talk about some spirits. All right. So what interests you in starting to make alcohol? How did it become your hobby?
It goes back a ways. So I'll tell you a story about that. So my dad's family owned a machine tool business, machine shop
Yeah, machine shop.
here in Michigan. Well, they ran into some difficulties, with labor and whatever, and they decided they were going to close their current location because they just couldn't make a deal, and they packed up all their machinery and they moved to a different location in Michigan.
Okay.
My dad said, I don't want to have anything to do with any of it anymore here. I'm moving down to Tennessee. He said, I think that's where the manufacturing is going to go anyway. He was right. He was way ahead of his time.
Okay.
And he moved down there when I was still in elementary school. And he built himself a little building, got it going. But he would drive back and forth from Nashville, just south of Nashville, back here, because he had to pick up machine parts and steel, and he had clients up here. And
That's a long drive.
yeah,
It's like what?
he used to do it twice in a weekend, which basically just means you're driving the whole weekend. 'Cause it's like a 9 hour. It's
It's like 10 hours.
9
It's
to
like
10.
9 hours on if you can really cook through Kentucky.
If you don't hit any traffic. That's
Yeah.
the thing. That's the thing.
Back
traffic.
then, there.
Oh yeah,
wasn't
that's true. That's true.
So, and you had a big V8. So you could drive 90 miles an hour, and he could get down there in, 8.5 hours one way.
That's awesome.
So I used to, of course, hitch a ride, because, if you're from Michigan and somebody's going down to Tennessee in the 70s, that's another world, especially to a kid.
So you just hitchhike?
Like, yeah, it's like I would go down there, and we'd live in the office because we couldn't afford a house down there when we
Okay.
first started. But for me, what kind of an adventure is that?
Yeah,
Because it was
that's-
completely different
Yeah.
than what I knew.
The ultimate adventure.
The ultimate
Especially
adventure.
hitchhiking the whole way.
They talk different.
Yeah.
the landscape was different.
The hills.
The hills.
The hills, yeah.
It was
I love that
hot.
about Tennessee.
It was really hot. We have mosquitoes. They have chiggers.
Well, I
learned that
thought
the
a
hard
chigger.
way.
I thought a chigger and a mosquito were the same thing, but
No,
that's another
chiggers
story.
are worse. But it's completely different.
Yeah.
So to me, it was fascinating to go down there, and there wasn't a lot of machinists there. There wasn't any. Mostly, if you have a machinist down in Tennessee at that time, was somebody that worked on cars.
Okay.
So my dad would have to hire people and train them. They didn't run lathes and mills, and he did high precision work too. So it was a skill. So he was training people and bringing people down from Michigan to help, and back and forth, like I said.
Mhm.
So I went down there, and I got to know the locals. They finally trusted us, but we were Yankees.
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
they're
Some
not-
Yankees
They're
always.
not going to embrace us 100%.
Heard that,
Not till,
yes,
Not
yes.
till we kind of proven ourselves. But my dad was a guy who was instantly likable, and he was very genuine, and he cared about people. And so
That's good.
he was training the people, and he was paying them Michigan, Detroit wages
Mhm.
down there.
Yeah, it's like
So they were making money that they didn't have before.
yeah,
Not-
they never seen before even.
Baling hay doesn't pay as much as running a lathe.
Heard that.
Right. So they trusted us.
Mhm.
And I went over to a son of one of the guys that my dad was training and working with. They finally invited me over to their place, and it was a tobacco farm.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Well, I didn't know what tobacco was. I never saw a tobacco plant. I thought, okay. I knew what corn was. In summers, I baled hay like everybody else,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
make some money. But tobacco, I didn't know anything about. Anyway, so I went in the tobacco barn, and they had a machine in there that I'd never seen before. I know about lathes and mills and all that, but this one had a fire underneath it, and everybody was sitting around it, and there was liquid coming out of it, and it looked like something from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and that's the first still I ever saw.
Okay.
And I stood there and thought,
Like,
as
what
I
is
said,
that?
wait a minute, I've been around machines, I've never seen a machine like that.
Mhm.
And I was hooked.
That's all
that
it took.
was it, man. I was
That's
like,
all it took.
what is this thing? What are
Like,
you doing
what is
here?
that fire doing underneath
What's that
there?
fire doing there? Why is everybody so happy? And I know now, but that was the first time
Party.
I saw anything like that. Because when you're in 9th grade or 10th grade in high school,
Mhm.
you never seen a still.
No,
You had no idea
most
how
definitely.
liquor was made or.
Mm-mm.
I had
You
no
didn't
idea.
care. You was,
Like I said, to me it was this like, what the heck is that thing?
Mhm.
Well, I became pretty popular because they found out that I could fix things. We had a machine shop.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of which stories I should tell you. I probably told you these at the distillery.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Now this microphone's here.
It makes you a little
Things
more
like that.
nervous. Like, should I say that?
But anyway, yeah. So we rigged it up that me and my buddies could get into the shop at night after it was closed up. We
Okay.
loosened like a panel up in the ceiling, like above the vestibule
Mhm.
when you're in the front.
Just climb through.
And we'd get somebody on the shoulders and push them up through. They'd go up there and go to the back and unlock the door.
Okay.
So we would spend the nights in there building stills of our own.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So you guys built your own at
yeah,
first.
we started building stills there at night in the machine shop and fixing parts that they would show up with like, this thing broke and
Like,
oh,
oh,
well, yeah,
I'll put that back
we'll
together
fix
for
that.
you. I
know,
gotcha.
Get that fixed up. That's
Yeah.
nothing. I knew how to weld. I'd been around that stuff my whole
Yeah,
life.
your whole life, because your dad did it.
Yeah.
You know, whose dad did it? You know.
So this thing broke or that broke, we could rethread it and braze it up and fix. So we had a constant supply of still parts that needed fixing.
Yeah.
And of course, we were teenagers, so
Easy money.
we were building our own.
Yeah, easy money.
We never sold any of it, but
No?
gave a lot of it away.
Okay. Okay.
And that's how you learn.
It is.
And that's where I found out that it's not as easy as you may think. It's not just a machine that you just, you turn the thing on, dump something in there, and it it's all done.
Because it can be dangerous.
It is dangerous.
You know, like, this is high pressure and everything.
It
Like
is
in the
dangerous.
movies, you always see every once in a while in the movie, you see one just blow up, you know. Don't fire guns here, you know.
That's right.
The old movies, like from the old time
That's
with
right.
the runners.
I mean, you got vapor coming out of there. There shouldn't be any vapor, but you have product coming out of there at 190 proof,
Oh, wow.
192 proof,
Super flammable.
super flammable, and it burns very, very quietly too. So it's not like gas that, you know what's going on. This by the time you realize that it's on fire, you're burned.
Oh, wow.
So you have to be
It's
very,
that
very careful.
blue flame.
Yeah, remember I was telling you there that the rule, you never turn your back on the still.
Yeah.
So that's why,
Man.
I'm talking to you at the distillery, but
Mhm.
I have to always tell people, I'm not being rude. I'm interested in what you're saying, but I've got to watch that still. But I don't want to stand back there because I want to be out here talking to you.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah, so you got to be careful.
Okay.
And so I started making spirits when I was probably summer of 10th grade. First ran into it summer of 9th grade.
What a childhood.
Yeah.
Like, what a childhood. That's
was
awesome.
That was our secret.
Yeah.
We had to keep from our parents. That some people go out and take beer out of the refrigerator in the garage.
Yeah.
We stuck in the machine shop and built stills and made moonshine.
That's so good. We would just go raid my friend's mom's cabinet, you know. She never drinks the spiced rum.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we were a long way from making spiced rum back then, but
what do you think is your favorite thing to make that you like?
people ask me that quite a bit, and my answer, of course, is I like making it all. But
Okay.
I do have a soft spot for rum.
For rum?
Like if we could grow sugarcane in Michigan,
Yeah.
I'd be the happiest man in the world.
Have your own field.
Oh man, you'd be able to just get that raw material.
Yeah,
And not that I'm complaining, because remember, Michigan has fantastic grains.
true.
We have everything we need to compete with anybody.
Yeah, corn,
We've
all
got
that.
Winter wheat, rye.
Mm-hmm.
We got apples. We got cherries, raspberries, blueberries. Goes on and on. We have everything we need.
It's funny.
Except for sugarcane.
It's funny, though, a lot of people don't realize that Michigan has, like, I know the Granny Smith apple, but a lot of, I remember being a Michigander and people saying, have you ever been to the Cherry Festival? And I'm like, there's a Cherry Festival in Michigan? But maybe it was because I was young. I learned about it when I was moved away from the state, and then I had to come back and visit it one time, because I knew nothing about it. Like, I thought that's just the best thing. We eat the cherries. I didn't know there was festivals, and the northern Michigan is the cherry fields and all this stuff.
Yeah, it's beautiful up there, and that's why we have cherry everything.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly.
Something's made out of cherry.
Exactly.
Including liquor.
Yep.
Up at the distilleries up in Traverse City, they make cherry-based liqueurs and liquors.
Hey, cherries are good.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't complain about having some cherry liquor.
Yeah. So to answer your question, what do I like making? I do like making rum, and I get the backstrap or molasses from Louisiana,
Oh, Louisiana.
and it's fun to make.
Why is it fun to make?
It smells great.
It smells good.
Start.
Okay.
Yeah, the smell is fantastic, and it's not as technical as making something like a bourbon,
Okay.
because in bourbons or whiskeys or any of the other grain-based liquors, you're extracting the glucose from the grains.
Okay.
So you're going to cook them for a certain period of time. You're going to bring the temperature down and add a second grain to it. For instance, for bourbon, it may be wheat or it may be rye.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to bring the temperature down a little bit more, holding it to get those starches,
Mm-hmm.
extract those starches. And then you're going to add malted barley that has that enzyme. Remember? We
Yeah,
talked
I
about
remember.
this.
I remember.
Has that enzyme, which I think is the coolest thing. This malted barley has an enzyme. When it goes in that pot, and that pot, remember I told you,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like making cornmeal muffins.
Yeah.
It's all starch. And you leave it there, it has like cracks in it. It looks like the top of a cornbread.
Yeah.
If you take a good old cast iron.
I don't know nothing about that.
Yeah, I love cooking.
No, I'm sorry.
I love cooking.
I've never made corn. I like cooking too, but I've never made cornbread. I always let my grandma do it because hers is the best.
Yeah,
You know.
well, that's true.
You know, like I could never compete.
You don't want to compete with grandma.
No.
But anyway, that malted barley, when you mix that in there, it liquefies that
Okay.
because it converts all that starch to glucose. And
Wow.
it's just fascinating.
Yeah, I've
then
never seen that process.
You will when you visit me.
Okay.
I'll show you. You
Roger
help me
that.
cook. I'm looking for an assistant anyway. So.
Roger that.
So anyway, the point is that that's more technical to make.
Yeah.
So we follow a very, very precise directions so that we
Mhm.
have consistency.
It's all measured out. Good.
yeah,
going.
exactly.
Yeah.
But rum, you can be a little bit more wild.
You can just toss
Like,
a little bit of
you
this
put
extra
some
in
of
there.
that, some beautiful water, nice clean water in there, and then add that molasses. Let it cook down, and the smell is beautiful. It smells fantastic. And then there's some other ingredients in there.
Yeah.
Too. And then the same thing, fermentation, smells great, and then you run it in a pot still, and you get those beautiful citrus and tropical flavors that you'd never expect to get out of
Just
molasses. And you're like, how do you get butterscotch flavor out
From
of
molasses? Yeah.
You know? So
Yeah.
a lot of people are the white rum. They taste a lot of tropical flavors in there. I'm
Okay.
like, did you put butterscotch in there? Like, no. I don't.
You just get it from the molasses.
Yeah.
So that's really cool
That's
because
right.
like getting like it's I never understood that you could get like different flavors depending on
Mhm.
how you know actually distill the liquid, the liqueur.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And it's the same with the bourbon. The bourbon, as we talked about,
Mhm.
that white dog goes into that barrel,
And it comes out
and
colored.
once it goes in that barrel, it's Mother Nature.
Okay.
You know, you can't put garbage in a barrel and expect to get a good bourbon. You gotta
True.
you have to put a nice profile in that barrel.
Yeah, I saw on Facebook you were actually smoking your barrel.
That's right. We char
Yeah, you smoke 'em
barrels.
yourself.
That's right. Some I buy already charred
Okay.
from Minnesota, from Black Swan,
Okay.
and some I love to save barrels because I have this thing about barrels and the history of the barrel. And I'll tell you a little bit about that.
Okay.
So I take them apart, I scrape them, rechar them, put them back together again,
Mhm.
then refill them and let them go on their next life.
Okay.
Because that all spirits are clear. Remember it? We
Yeah,
talked
you
about
told me
this?
that.
Yeah, so I'll just tell everybody else. That all spirits, when they come out of the still, are crystal clear. There's no color.
Mhm.
There shouldn't be. If it's cloudy, run away.
Yeah. Okay.
That, you know,
It's
that's-
not the good stuff.
No, you don't want that. You don't want that stuff. So that color and that flavors are going to come from that barrel.
Yeah.
But it's even more interesting than that. Depending on what journey that barrel goes on,
Mhm.
is going to determine that flavor profile. So
Oh.
that big barrel
Mhm.
that the high water came out of,
Mhm.
that sat in a shed for 2.5 years, exposed to everything.
All the hot, the cold,
Hot,
everything.
cold, bees, raccoons, you know, anything.
I hope not raccoons.
Well, they don't get in the barrel, but you know, it's not in a climate controlled place at all.
Yeah.
It's purposely there in order to be exposed to whatever
'Cause the-
elements are coming its way.
So because the elements actually help develop the
Yes,
flavor.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the smaller barrels that you saw at the
Mhm.
distillery, you remember they were out in front?
Yeah, I wondered when we were walking by.
Exactly.
Like I didn't realize that they actually had like the liqueur in them.
Most people don't realize that. They think it's a
Display.
display.
Like,
I'm
a good place for a kid
no.
to sit and take a
Yeah.
picture. Like
Yeah, it makes a great picture,
it
but
does.
the reason that barrel's out there is because it needs to get some sun.
Mm.
So I sit it out there in the front, let it cook in the sun, and that adds to the character.
Why do you scrape them though? I would think that leaving like second generation, it's gonna make it more potent. It's gonna add more
It
flavor.
It
you know?
can, and some of them I don't touch.
Okay.
A lot of those barrels, used bourbon barrels that I had used myself, or I found them, I got them somewhere. I'll put the rum in there.
Yeah.
Remember we talked about that?
Yeah, we talked
So
about
the,
that.
The rum, of course, is crystal clear,
Yeah.
it goes into the used bourbon barrel and it sits there for a long time, and it gets that beautiful color, right? That's where that color from
It's
that
like
that spiced rum comes
it's
from.
like an auburn
That's right.
amber or an amber color.
Exactly. And it
Mhm.
picks up that vanilla flavor from the barrel.
Yeah.
It picks up a little bit of the bourbon that used to be in there that's gone now.
Mhm.
And the same with the other barrels. So I actually named the barrels.
How you name all of them too?
Instead of numbering them. Like I just thought, sometimes I look at the barrel and it just reminds me of somebody. Like one of them reminded me of Johnny Cash. So I look down, it's kind of rough.
Kind of rough
around the edges,
Yeah, dark spots.
Some dark spots.
Mm,
It's
look like it got a burning ring of fire right there.
exactly. It kind of has a history. You know,
Okay.
maybe not.
Like you
Yeah.
must have got this one Folsom County.
Exactly. Exactly. So
That's
so-
cool.
So Johnny Cash spends some time out in the front. Johnny
Mhm.
Cash spends some time in the back. I also loan the barrels out for trips. So some of the
Mm.
barrels sit at friends of mine at their house. Some in
okay.
their man cave pole barn.
Change the flavor.
That's right, exactly.
Wow.
So part of part of what you're getting in that bottle is the journey that barrel and that bourbon have been on.
Wow, that's really cool.
So if I took some of my bourbon from the big barrels
Mm-hmm.
and I took some bourbon from Johnny Cash, it's going to be very different.
Mhm.
And so a
Hmm.
lot of people, including myself, develop kind of an emotional attachment to the barrel.
Yeah, because the barrel gives you that type of
Yeah,
flavor that
and
you're
they-
looking for.
That's right. And they stop in and say, "How's Johnny Cash doing?" I'm like, "It's doing pretty well." And we just pulled a little bit out, and we'll try it. You know, those tables, they have that.
Yeah.
So we have a table that looks like a dock,
Okay.
and if you pull one of the pieces of wood out, the bungs of the barrels are there so that we can pop them up and taste them. You know, kind of like the speakeasy.
Nice.
Yeah, right.
Little hideaway.
So a lot of people are simply waiting for that barrel to be ready, whichever one that they have a preference for.
Yeah.
And
So like you have certain people come for certain barrels.
yes,
Really, that's cool.
exactly.
I want to try Johnny Cash now because I'm a huge Johnny Cash fan.
Yeah.
You know, like since I was a kid. Actually, it wasn't when I was a kid. It was when I saw the movie. Once I saw the movie and then I started listening to the music, it was like, wow, like he really I thought he was amazing because he made one beat for the end. Like he had the same beat for
Yeah.
every song, but you couldn't tell because he just twisted it just a little bit.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's what that barrel is.
Yeah,
Kind of
that's-
rough, but it's ends up being melodic and smooth. The
Yeah,
flavor,
super smooth.
super smooth.
Mm.
And I just find that fascinating.
Me too.
That
It's
you
interesting.
can change the character of that
Mhm.
drink simply by giving that barrel a pass.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I would never
Yep.
think that.
Yep, that's right.
Just putting it somewhere else, like, oh, I'm gonna put this one on the boat and we're gonna take it over here and drop it off at so and so's house. And just from being on the other side of the island itself, it has a completely different flavor night and day.
That's right. So what you'll
Oh.
hopefully when I get it together
Mhm.
on Facebook, we're gonna show some pictures of where these barrels have been.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea.
Because I just throw them in the back of my car, and I'll drive them to wherever we may be going for a weekend.
That's really cool.
So like,
like
yeah, so-
we're going to Tennessee.
exactly. So Dolly Parton barrel spent the weekend in Traverse City.
Oh, that's cool.
For the Iron Man,
Oh, okay.
and sat out on the beach.
Wow.
You know,
Just gets, man, I wonder, so is it the wood or is it the elements soaking in through the wood? Like, because the wood
That's
still
correct.
breathes,
that's
right?
correct. So the barrel is waterproof,
Mhm.
but it's not airproof. So that
Ah.
barrel is breathing. That's what they call the angel share.
Hmm.
So part of that barrel is going to evaporate through that wood.
Oh, wow.
That's the
So, like,
angel share.
it may start off full, but by the time you're done, it's like you lose about, let's say, an eighth of it or
Well, not quite, but you lose part of it,
part of it?
and
Okay.
and the proof changes and the flavor changes because it's getting more condensed.
What's the strongest proof that you make?
Well, we put it in the barrel at 118.
Mm-hmm.
It comes out of a pot still around 140 to 150.
Okay.
Depends on what the grain bill is. So what I didn't anticipate was so many people wanted the cask strength bourbon.
Yeah.
They're like, Mike, we trust you
Mhm.
to proof it down, but really don't want you messing with our bourbon.
That's a huge thing.
It's a huge thing. We'd like you just to draw it straight out of the barrel, little, if there's little wood chips in it, don't filter it, don't do anything. Just literally take it
Really?
out of that barrel. Yeah. Because what they're going to do is they're going to take their own glass, their favorite glass, right? And they're going to have their favorite little ice cubes, no matter how they look, whether they're square, they're round. A lot of people get those ice trays that have the small round ones, the
Yeah.
big round one,
Mhm.
or they don't care. They just get whatever comes out of their refrigerator ice maker.
Okay.
But they know that they're going to put in two of those cubes or maybe 3 of those cubes, and they're going to pour 118 in there, right? And they're going to go like this with it, wash it around until it proofs down. When they know that those 3 cubes or 2 are melted, it's proofed down to where they like it.
What?
Yeah, because there's the different
Hold on.
flavors for the different proofs.
So that's why people actually put ice in their drinks. It's not just to chill it; it's also to proof it down a little
Yes.
bit to make it more tolerable for
Right.
their preference.
Exactly.
Wow, hey, you just learned something really interesting there. I never knew that.
Now,
Well, or the
I
flip
gotta-
side is some people use whiskey stones.
That's right. I
Because
was
they
gonna tell
don't
you.
want to proof it down, but they do want to chill it.
Be careful, because there's the school of bourbon drinkers that think putting ice in it is
Blasphemy.
Blasphemy. you should never do that. And again, it's a matter of preference. But
Yeah.
if you start at 80 proof, you're never going to experience that bourbon at 90 because you can't go that way.
Yeah,
You can only go down.
down.
Right?
Okay.
So I never got a label made that said cask strength 118 or had the barrel numbers or anything else, because I didn't anticipate how much demand there was going to be for cask strength. And I changed that. So this week I have the other label, and it has an area there that I can write in the grain bill, which means what is it made out of,
Yeah.
what barrel number is it, what bottle number is it, what's the proof.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I really think that going forward, most of our bourbons are probably going to be cask strength, taken right out and not manipulated at
Oh,
all.
that'll be a huge draw.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
definitely have to come and get some bourbon.
And people constantly ask me to buy the whole barrel. And I tell them, I can't do it. It's hard enough emptying the barrel that I've become so attached to, bottle by bottle, let alone watching you walk out of here with my baby.
Well, you've got a lot of these, a lot of the whiskey and bourbon clubs that are out now, and that's typically who's asking, I would
That's
assume.
right. It is.
Because they're going to have their own private event at their own space, and they just
Exactly.
want to have that be the focal point. So
That's exactly what they want. They want that barrel to be the focal point of their activities and have people sampling it right out of the barrel.
So is it unique out of the same barrel though? Does it change every time with that same barrel? Like if you empty Johnny Cash and you did them again, would it still be changed even though it's the same recipe?
Yes.
And you put them in and outside like the same area.
It would. It would change slightly. That's true. And it would take a lot longer as well.
Oh,
So
okay.
that second time around is going to take quite a bit longer than it would the first time.
Oh wow. Okay.
And that's the reason you scrape it sometimes, because
It's quicker.
maybe it's already been used twice, and you'd have to have that bourbon in there for 3 years or 4 years
Oh, wow.
before you get the flavor profile that you would want to release. So that's when you say, you know what, it's time to get back to the original wood. So you literally take this tool, it's just a wood scraping tool, and you put the thing in a vise and just literally scrape it. Scrape the stuff off back down to that wood, and then on our Facebook page it shows me doing it.
Yeah, I saw
Did you
that.
see that?
Yeah, I saw that.
And I was using hickory. I was using hickory wood.
Okay.
And I thought, I'm going to try hickory.
Well, I definitely want to most definitely come back. I'm gonna try some of this gin, guys, because I love some gin, and The vodka, maybe for my girlfriend, but I have some. My mom actually got some spiced rum, and I got the spiced bourbon. And let me tell you, it was a hit at my house. You know, I probably got about a quarter of the bottle gone because I'll just let people sample, only samples.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I
it's
appreciate
really
that.
good, you know, and I very much appreciate you guys coming in, you know, and talking to me today and just, you know, telling me a little bit about your story. I definitely will recommend everybody, you know, let's go for a day. You know, you want to take a day trip, let me know, let mom know. We'll come through and we'll have a great time. We'll go and we'll sample some of the different types of liqueur that we have around. Yeah, I just want to say thank you guys today. You know, we had Harson's Island Distillery with us today. I want to say thank you to Michael.
I was saying before you wrap up, so where do they find you online? Facebook, website, that kind of stuff.
Exactly, Facebook
And it's
So
Harson's,
it's
Harsen, if I recall correctly?
Yep.
Harson's Island.
and as you know, we have couches out there.
Yeah,
It's really designed to have you come in and hang out. We certainly don't.
it's very
want you just to
comfortable.
walk in and stand there. We've got books on the table that show history of bootlegging, the history of Harson's Island. There's some recipe books for moonshining. There's some lots of interesting
moonshine, right?
Yeah, there's lots of interesting stuff there to pique your interest and pique the conversation about it.
Interesting.
And of course, I'm always thrilled to explain the process and show you some differences, as I said, in the different bourbons depending on where they are.
Different
in-
flavor
in
profiles.
Different flavor profiles
Yeah.
depending on where they are, meaning where they're sitting in the barrel and what that barrel history is.
That's what I enjoyed the most about going there was, you know, being able to sample everything before you actually had to make a decision and make a purchase. You know, and it was a very comfortable environment. Like I said, him and his wife, they are great hosts. You know, so I would say I welcome you to come to Harson's Island and have a fantastic time. You will enjoy the ferry trip going across. You know, it's short, but it's fun and straight to the point, you know. Everything about it is a great time, you know. I'd say if you want to check us out, go to lovelogical.com, www.lovelogical.com, or you can check us out on Facebook at the LoveLogical page. You know, we had Harson's Island Distillery. Anything you guys need, let us know. And always remember, show the love that you want the world to see. Thank you guys. Have
Thank
a great
you.
rest
Thanks
of your
for
day.
having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Nice to see you again.
Yes, sir.